Well, welcome back to another of Wilds of Suburbia. I am planning and hopefully be able to keep uh, continuing to make uh, multiple videos. Just as I continue to go through things in my own life that I feel that may be relevant for other people. I was speaking with a young man yesterday. This man is 24 years old. Very, very nice, insightful, high traits of conscientiousness. And I, in our conversation, struck several chords with him that really resonated. And I see this as a continuing issue that a lot of young men have. I'd say just in general, a lot of men in our society have. And I want to, commend him for standing in the space of the uncertainty and to do something about that uncertainty, to make the life that he wants to see happen and break cycles. Now, we discuss the fact that a lot of just the relationship status when it comes to children and relationships, and how his experience has been, being that he comes from a single mother, and how single mothers will craft their children to be the man that they want to see them be, but typically, and especially a lot of different social groups refer to men as being not shit, and or that men aren't not reliable, have very negative views of men, and then in turn say that they're going to create their child in the world to be different than the men that they find themselves in relationships with. And based off of that, how exactly do they build the reality for that person down to the details to make them the men that they don't want their son to be, but yet they still themselves find attraction in men that don't live up to the expectations they have. And my question to women that do this, especially these single mothers or these mothers that do this to their children, exactly what part of the relationship are you culpable with and culpable for? Now, how are you in relationship responsible for those relationships that you have that you also expose your children to? Now, you don't have to expose your children to them directly. You can expose your children to them indirectly based off of the experiences you have, and then the emotions that you bring into the home from those relationships. Children see everything. They feel so much more than what you may give them credit for. But anyway, so I was discussing that with this young man, and I told him, since his father was not in his life, or was absent in his life, at least for the predominant part of it, that he himself is going to have to stand up and be the man that he wants to be. Not the man that he was taught to be, but to create himself to be that man that he sees himself as in society, which is dualistic in our conversation, because he was stating that he is not happy with the man that he had, that he was, and that he wanted to become another man. He wanted to become the man that would be idolized by, his own children in time, if that be the case. Just that other people would recognize him as a man of absolute integrity. And as my last video yesterday, I went over truth to integrity, and the fact that you can have truth but not have integrity, but you cannot have integrity without truth. And the basis of that, again, just to recap it before I talk about the dragons, our pet dragons. The first one is, you can be honest, but you can omit things that are necessary for somebody to understand the bigger picture. And all of us at fault in this, myself at fault as well, where it's easier to say the truth, but not to give the totality of it. Your conscience talks to you, but you convince yourself that you're already honest, it's okay. And those are typically truth by omission, or truth through omission. But it's not really 100% truth, and that's where the integrity lies, as I showed you in the previous video. Integrity is bigger. Integrity means that you understand the other person understands you, and that you also understand that person, not just the words that they've chosen, the context, the view, the vision. the big world of what's being discussed, as my previous relationship had come to a close due to that error. And that is 100% my error, as I am aware of those factors. I am aware of that integrity level, and that's to my own responsibility and no one else. So I also shared that with him, and he had said that he'd recently gone through his own deep, profound or meaningful relationship ending. Now, I've noticed recently a lot of people that I am familiar with in my life have gone through significant relationship challenges, and I think it's just interesting how those things are kind of like they're clustering at certain times. So, but anyway, so to talk about the dragons, I give this gentleman a great degree of credit for standing up. He made a change the day that we spoke. Because of something that he was doing, he decided to make it right immediately, and I commend him for that. So he preferred to go by his middle name, but a shortened version of his middle name. And I asked him yesterday if he would prefer to be known by what's comfortable in society, or would he rather be known by who he's created himself to be in society that will have aspects that are uncomfortable. And something as simple as the name that he goes by. So this gentleman was going by the name Chris, but his real name is Collie. No, his first name's Collie, middle name's, he was using a shorter version of his middle name, but his middle name is not Christopher. So Collie, I commend you for the effort that you put in immediately, and I hope to continue to hear about the successes that you have, and also the failures that you have. Life isn't marked by success. Life is marked by living. And that means failure and success. But just like Jordan Peterson says, be careful with who you share good news with. Not everybody wants to hear it, or not everyone will receive it in the way that is beneficial to you. They may use it against you at some point. Or also, be careful with who you share bad news with. So anyway, I look forward to that growth. And for myself too, and to share through these videos that my own growth in the process here. I'm not standing or sitting in the position that I am right about everything or even anything. It's the nature of existence. Sometimes it's so incredibly hard to know when you are right, and then when you are truly and deeply wrong, as marked with my last relationship. But point being, it's just really challenging to figure those things out. So the best thing to do is to hold integrity in order to create the best version of reality that fits who you are, and not a version of reality that will fit who you want people to believe you are. So now to pet dragons. How we create a pet dragon. Now the pet dragon will only ever consume you, or you will have to kill it. It will slay it. Now it's one or the other, but when you first bring it on, it's sometimes as cute as a puppy, meaning that it's comfortable, it feels good, it has its own reward at the time, because it's the moment that you slip in that integrity and you shift yourself to at least I got past that. Like the birth of my little dragon. I was honest. I spoke the truth. But the dragon was born because I was not in the integrity of it, which was the validation of communication, the clarity that both myself and the other person were speaking in the same world with each other, the same reality. And there was a divergence of that reality based off of a need or a desire that relationship continued. At that moment, it had the high potential that it would be discontinued. And that was discontinued on my part at that moment. I would have been. So the fear that came in, or the gleefulness that relationship could continue once that the honesty was spoken, and the interpretation of that statement or what was spoken was returned to me, as if it were affirmed that she herself did understand what I was saying and agreed to a different agreement at that point moving forward. But that was the birth of that little dragon. So the sadness about that is that it felt comfortable enough at that moment. And that's what I knew, that my integrity wasn't there, but the reward was great enough that it allowed more time with this person. And later on, more bonding and things, and truly deep, and valuable and emotional bondings that changed my life. So, with that being said, that comfortable dragon grew. It stopped being comfortable shortly after, because immediately there was a great degree of something that I wasn't okay with, and I compromised in my own values to allow this thing to exist and continue. This is not regret. This is learning. This is not me saying I wish it had never happened. This is, again, me saying I'm learning. Life isn't about being comfortable. You don't grow when you're comfortable, and that's in any and all aspects. That's exactly what I want to experience in my life, is growth through as much discomfort as possible without causing me, psychological fracturing. So I have a lot of tolerance for stress. I also have a lot of tolerance for things that don't go the way that I wish for them to go. But as I practice living liberty and being that person that is living a creative life, that has been the thing that has created less discomfort over time, because I always have the fallback that I've always been honest. Now, the deeper value is that fallback may be present, that I've always been honest, but now my game is elevated, and my game of life is elevated. That game of life is to raise my integrity to the point that when I have those, or any conversation really, that I could be assured, that I could be certain the other person truly understands what we're communicating, not just what I want the person to say or what they want me to say, which is most communication. That's the deeper impact for me. That's what happens when you continue to raise your game, which makes you more potent. And how many people in life don't want to be potent? Because you being potent means you matter to others. You can make big changes in life. You can have one conversation like I had with Colin, and that conversation goes from, I'm in a world of muck, I'm in a world of discomfort and emotional challenges, and I'm seeking greater truth from what I went through. And as soon as we had that conversation, he said that seemed like a fated conversation. It was destined. It was something that he had to hear. That's the kind of reality that I wish to create with everyone that I interact with, to the degrees that the moment allows for. Not some weirdness where I'm going around trying to overly intimately connect with people through every aspect of life, but giving the privilege of the person as a validatable human being, that you exist and you're in front of me. That kind of experience for other people is always my desire, to help create impactful, valuable, deep meaning relationships that can be trustworthy, which trust is prediction of the future, so that you know how to allocate your resources, whatever that resource may be. And I'll say that one more time, because I think the definition of trust is so convoluted in colloquialisms and half-sided views. Trust itself as a functional value or functional definition is your ability to predict a future based off that person's actions or behaviors that give you a comfort to allocate resources to that person. Whatever that resource is, if it's your time, if it's money, whatever it is, your emotions, your affections, all of those things, that's what we call trust. But that's the kind of relationships that I want to create. Now, the little comfortable dragons, they're usually comfortable when they're born. They're cute, right? I wouldn't say cute, but it's the way of looking at it, right? It's like this thing that you can look at with ease or some degree of comfort. because it facilitates a need at the moment. But then the dragon starts to learn its nature. And that nature is to be fearful. It starts to consume, it grows up, it matures. And before you know it, whatever that thing was, whether it's a conversation, whatever, but in my example, it's a conversation that led to actions. That conversation went from that into growing into something else on both parties. We both gave birth to a dragon that day. We both had a baby dragon come to reality, which is it was comfortable for me to accept that position that we both agreed to. It was comfortable for her to agree to at least alleviate that particular stress in the conversation. Now, had we not allowed that thing to come to fruition, to come to reality, we could have easily had continued down the path of communication and would have never given that dragon an opportunity to be born. And we would have had the clarity that integrity is, but we didn't. So with that being said, it was comfortable enough at that time, even though by me recognizing the comfort was the flag that I should have intervened in that, and I didn't. So then it grew over time to the point that it became a fearful creature. Now for me, it wasn't as fearful because I continued to leverage back onto, well, I'm honest, and I was honest the entire time. I'm telling the truth. I have agreed to her terms, and I am going with that agreement. So I didn't feel a deep sense of the scary creature. I just continued to feed that creature. It didn't actually show how big and destructive that it is until the critical moment, whenever that conversation that happened a year and I want to say a year and 7 months prior, when it finally came back to the moment that we needed to discuss. And at that moment, the reality that we both had two different views of that conversation became very transparent. Her dragon and my dragon both became, we've got the bigger gauge of what that thing is, how big it had become. So the pet dragon grows. No matter how much you wish or think that you can control, or that you have, like in my case, I'm honest, and being honest, it grew in the background, and I had no idea how enormous it actually was until it was like I was forced to look at it. The reason why I have that level of responsibility is the entire time there was something about that I knew that just wasn't quite right, and that was the thing that kind of persisted in the background, and it was too comfortable. And now this is not like a conscious conversation. It's a subconscious conversation where it's like you're not knowing that you're having it. It just kind of plays in the background. And that's what this thing is. So as far as that goes, that's the pet dragon, right? It came into my home as a pet. Though, and it wasn't like a big thing. It wasn't telling everybody, hey, I got a pet dragon. No, nothing like that. It just came into my home, and because it facilitated a moment of a need. However minute that moment of need really felt to me, it still felt comfortable enough. And that's where my integrity was gone. The thing that kills a dragon is the sword, if you will, that kills or slays the dragon is integrity. And it's leveling up every day that you can. If you're telling lies now, well, okay, stop telling lies. At least don't tell a lie. If you can't tell the truth, at least don't tell a lie. And progress yourself through the process. If you're tired of having relationships that always seem to have, and not just talking about intimate relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever the relationship is you live with, do you prefer, this is in all relationships. So, that's what I have for now. Moving into more traffic, and I do need to make a phone call before I arrive at my destination. So I hope that this conversation and this topic has been useful, and I look forward to your feedback. I appreciate the feedback that I got from the previous video, and like I said, I do plan on making more of these, and as I grow through my own process, the grievance process, if you will, the what is expected after something meaningful comes to an end. So I'll continue to share. It's like a daily thing, I guess. But anyway, all right, till next time. I am your host, Sir Chad Everett Brochures, and I am just the man. I'll catch you guys next time. See ya. Oh, by the way, this is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. So we'll catch you next time.